The lift doors opened, tall, portly, perfectly coiffured, with an air of aristocratic thuggery. Newt Bates strode into Franco's apartment as if he owned the place, closely followed by two heavies, identically dressed in pinch-tight black suits, their ever-increasing biceps too difficult for Newt's Savile Row tailor to keep up with. Ever the epitome of good manners and the classic English gentleman, Newt, with outstretched hand, stepped towards Franco and flashed a Hollywood smile. "How very kind of you to see me, Mr. Rossellini. Letting a stranger into your home is much appreciated." His syrupy Sloaney accent purred with expensive previous history. "I know who you are," said Franco. The gang took a breath. "You own United Football Club. What you want? I'm late for physio." Yes, of course, you're a busy man. I'll get straight to the point. May I?" He waved a hand toward the sofas, asking to sit. Franco nodded. They took a sofa each, the coffee table between them. The two bodyguards stood facing the room with their backs to the lift. "What a splendid view, dear boy. Quite spectacular." Bates looked out across London. "Thank you. Now what do you want?" Franco had no desire for pleasantries, knowing that the man before him was a sick paedophile. He wanted to smash his lights out. "And having a helipad on the roof. Next time I'll fly in." "I doubt there'll be a next time. Again, what do you want?" The man's cloying aftershave twitching Franco's nose. "I understand you are acquainted with a character called David Howard, an old friend of mine. I wondered if you had seen him recently." Franco gave a nonchalant shrug. "Who? I don't know anyone by that name. Who does he play for?" Newt closed his eyes, his jaw tightened. Patience not his strong point. No, he's not a player, dear boy. Well, not your kind. He's the good friend of one of your exes, a Miss War, Tara War. I'm led to believe he's in the country. You still see Miss War? You may know of his whereabouts." "I'm not in the habit of keeping up with ex-lovers' boyfriends, Mr. Bates. As I said, I don't know him. You could have called, asked me on the telephone. Why come all this way? He must be pretty important. What is he to you?" 7 sets of ears strained at the bedroom door. Eyes narrowed. Franco sat back on his sofa and observed his unwanted guest. Newt had the look of an arrogant, greedy child, used to getting his own way. His lips tight and narrow, hiding a cunning serpent. He half expected a viper tongue to flick out at any moment. Reading Franco's disdain, Newt gave a slow nod of understanding. There was no further need for polite pretense. Eyes on Franco, he leaned forward, rested elbows on knees, chin on pyramid fingertips, and allowed his face to darken. Franco stared back. "Ah, there he is. I'm not in the habit of having to explain myself, Mr. Rossellini." His voice hardened. He had a condescending way of stressing the word Mr. "You know where he is, and you're going to tell me. Or you may find that a small knife slice to your Achilles heel will put you out of the game for a while. Most inconvenient, don't you think? An injury like that takes a long time to heal." Josie tiptoed across the bedroom to a wardrobe. Pulling doors open, she rummaged through clothing. "What are you doing?" whispered Michael. "Shh," she whispered back. Franco threw his head back and laughed, more bravely than he felt. "Are you threatening me? I'm sure the press would love to hear that snippet of information. Is this how you run your club? With threats? The high and mighty Newt Bates is a bully." Franco stood up. "Get out. This visit is over." The thugs stepped forward. Newt put out his hand to calm them. He smiled a slippery, charming, trust-me smile. "We seem to have got off on the wrong foot, Mr. Rossellini. I'm merely trying to find a mutual acquaintance. I know you know him, and I believe he's back in the country." "As far as I know, Miss War's ex is dead. No, he is very much alive. How do you know? He paid me a visit in the early hours of this morning. Left his particular brand of calling card. No doubt you'll see it on the news. I don't take kindly to being threatened, Mr. Rossellini. If you see Mr. Howard, let him know his days are numbered, along with any colleagues that help him, including you. Are you threatening me again? Asked Franco, eyes hardening. Yes, dear boy, but before I get to you, I'll get to Miss War. I understand he has a soft spot for her. If he doesn't contact me by the time I've finished, he'll not recognize her. Do I make myself clear? The folding doors that separated the room screeched a few feet open. Master Rossellini, barked a female voice. I'm waiting, and you know I don't like to be left waiting. The four men turned to see Josie, dressed in full-on S&M regalia, stood, stockinged legs wide apart, in impossibly high stilettos, and a tight black rubber mini-dress, twirling a leather whip at her side. With tousled curls piled on top of her head and a black leather belt buckled at her neck, she trailed fake red fingernails across the skin of her bare breasts, thrust up and out of a tight bustier. A squirt of whipped cream encircled each nipple. Franco's jaw dropped. The thugs followed suit. Josie walked seductively towards them, scooped up a slither of cream on her little finger, placed it coyly into her mouth, and sucked provocatively on his tip. Newt let out a laugh. His thugs shuffled from one foot to the other, beyond excited. They'd heard about the sordid lifestyle of some footballers, but didn't think the aloof superstar Franco Rossellini dabbled. They enjoyed the moment more than they should. Well, 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 barked Newt. Mr. Rossellini, what a surprise, I must say. Here's something else the papers will enjoy. I'm sorry to have interrupted your, what did you call it? Physio? He laughed, winking at Josie. Maybe I could join you. We could... No, thank you, old boy, interrupted Josie, with a bored sigh. I've got enough to deal with. A few more are tied up back there waiting for Mr. Social Pants here. These footy boys like to do everything together. Team building, they call it. She turned to Franco and snapped her whip with a loud crack, just missing the side of his head. All four men jumped. Chop, chop, who gave you permission to answer the door? Send your little friend home, or you know your punishment. She flicked her whip again. I'll use the steam iron. The thugs looked nervously at each other, grabbing their private parts, pain clearly not their thing. Newt stared at her. Recognition eased across his face. I know you, don't I, dear? He muttered, scrunching his brow in thought.